behaupten, das deutsche Volk wehrt sich gegen die totale Kriegsmaßnahme der Regierung.
Du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe?
Will nicht den totalen Krieg da, die Engländer, sondern die Kapitulation.
Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Wollt ihr den totalen Krieg?
The world is moving in the right direction. And by that I don't mean correct, but right. Right as Marine Le Pen, Giorgia Meloni and Alice Weidel. Maybe even right as autocratic like Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. In this video we're gonna talk about the biggest of them all, the biggest right-wing leader in the world, Donald John Trump. We're gonna check his relationship with a political ideology that has been defined by Mao, Mussolini and Hitler, namely autocracy. Okay, let's start with a guess. How many people in percent in the world are living in an autocracy these days?
40.
Something around 15%.
30%.
Maybe 20.
Autocracy.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good question.
I don't know, maybe 40%.
30%, 25, something like this.
I would say
Yeah, at least half of it.
40, 30. I think it could be about 30%. 40.
Oh, I'd go 30.
In fact, 70% of them all are living in an autocracy. That makes 5.6 billion people in total, and that leaves only 2.4 billion people in the world living under democratic rule.
Jeez.
We know nothing.
Autocracy relates back to the term of self-rule. That can be either a party, like one can see in China currently, or a single person, like back in the days in China in the middle of the 20th century, like Mao Zedong. Okay, but wait. When a single person has all the power over a nation, can't this also be called a dictatorship? Oh yes, indeed. Autocracy and dictatorship are closely related and can, in some cases, be considered as synonyms. Adolf Hitler, Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, they defined the modern understanding of an autocracy, of the iron fist leading the nation back to old glory, making their country great again.
We will make America great again.
Make America great again is the most prominent, but only one among dozens of speeches, statements, tweets and campaign slogans made by Donald Trump that seem to have a little autocratic shine. As the public knows him, he makes use of a simple language, speaks loud and propagandistic, and here and there insults political opponents.
Radical left lunatics.
She's a radical war hawk.
Lion Ted. Crooked Hillary.
His straightforward emotional communication, plans for Gaza and Ukraine, and his allusions to take over Greenland and Canada open up the question, is Donald Trump an autocrat? To approach this in a proper manner, I let Mr. Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt take over, two Harvard professors who published the book How Democracies Die. In there, they list numerous examples on the fall of democracies in history, point out on how subversive an authoritarian takeover can take place, and give advice on how to prevent such happening. Perfect for this video, on page 28 and 29 of How Democracies Die, there are 4 indicators for autocratic behavior, which we can now apply to Donald J. Trump. But it doesn't just start when Trump finally sits in the Oval Office signing executive orders on paper straws with a Sharpie. It starts way before, so to speak, when capturing referees, sidelining key players and rewriting the rules to tilt the playing field. Trump tried all of them, as Levitsky and Ziblatt write. The best example might be the Comey case. Back in 2017, James Comey, FBI chief, had dinner with President Trump in the White House. Maybe it was between the second and the third course when Trump went on to Comey and asked him for his honest loyalty. The FBI chief demurred, as it would be the best, he said, to have an independent intelligence agency rather than one with allegiance to the president. The reason why Trump might have asked this to Comey might be the FBI's investigations on any ties between Russia and Trump. Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election was all documented in the Mueller report made by the FBI. As a consequence, Trump fired James Comey, fired General Attorney Jeff Sessions, and tried to fire General Counsel Robert Mueller himself. All of this is a rabbit hole with an extra long red tail, leading to more firing and hushing attempts. Therefore, let's get back to the Oval Office and have a look at Trump's Sharpie signing spree. Here lies the first example for a tryout on changing the Constitution on his own, removing the birthright citizenship from the US Constitution.
Birthright. That's a big one.
This attempt was first stopped by the federal courts, and now Trump wants to fight in Supreme Court. Obviously, he can't do whatever he wishes to, also not firing everybody from the executive branch as he once declared. Donald Trump's yet most controversial take was the rigged election from 2020.
We did great in 2016. A lot of people don't know. We did much better in 2020. We won. We won. We did win. It was a rigged election. It was a rigged election.
An indicator for rejection of the democratic rules of the game. Some who actually succeeded in overstepping democracy are Nayib Bukele from El Salvador and Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. They simply declared themselves president even when the constitution didn't allow it or their opponent actually won. In the USA, the denial of the election's result took a tragic turn. The attack on the Capitol, which Trump spoke of as
That was a day of love.
One can argument that the intentions on marching down to the Capitol weren't aimed at endorsing violence, but what shouldn't be forgotten is the relativization of the happenings on January 6th. Also, his pardon of roughly 1,500 rioters speaks of him as a president who sees violence as an appropriate mean for expressing dissatisfaction. A clear toleration of violence, the third major indicator for authoritarian behavior, is his long list of violent comments. One sticks out quite clearly.
They asked me, what do you think about waterboarding, Mr. Trump? I said, I love it. We have laws that we have to abide by. So I say we're going to have to strengthen the laws and toughen up the laws, and we're going to have to make ourselves tougher.
The list goes on to suggesting military violence against political opponents, a point under the second indicator of denial of the legitimacy of political opponents. The so-called radical left lunatics should be handled by a National Guard or, if really necessary, by the military. Liz Cheney, a Republican, having spoken against Trump publicly, he defames as a radical war hawk for sending US troops into war regions all over the world. Another encouragement of violence is what else he says about her.
Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Further on, Trump spreads conspiracy theories made by the movement QAnon. In a repost on his social media platform Truth Social, he is shown with a QAnon lapel pin and the heading, "The storm is coming." By that, nothing more or less is meant than the execution of his opponents on live television. Live TV, that is a great bridge to the fourth and last major indicator for authoritarian behavior after Levitsky and Ziblatt, namely readiness to curtail civil liberties of opponents, including media. The fourth pillar in a democracy, so it is often called, is the media. Running or even taking over the media so is a powerful mean for impacting people's political opinion and also an attack on democracy stability itself. Donald Trump is famous for his expression fake news. The main media outlets are the enemy of the people.
You are fake news. It's called fake news. Fake news deal. When you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people.
Therefore, he took action very recently and filed a lawsuit against the Des Moines Register for showing a poll that presents Kamala Harris leading during the campaign period of the presidential election 2024, as it was supposed to be an election-interfering fiction. Although the newspaper admitted that the poll did not reflect the ultimate margin of President Trump's election day victory, bringing up a lawsuit seems more like a groundless accusation and attempt to hush the press. Now, what makes an autocrat? Is it the violent rhetoric, the allegations against political opponents, the friend-making with like-minded figures with authoritarian aspirations, or the openness towards violence in what form whatsoever to pursue the country's goals, respectively one's own goals? In the case of the United States and Donald Trump, the authors Daniel Ziblatt and Stephen Levitsky speak of the famous checks and balances which safeguard the holy political trinity of judiciary, legislative and executive. If the executive, simply spoken Donald Trump, tries to overstep the courts and the Congress when, for example, attempting to change the birthright citizenship, he will always be restricted by law itself, they say. So far so good in theory, but in reality we have seen over the past 100 years many cases which prove the opposite. Cases in which powerful people have been elected into office under democratic circumstances and then quickly took amendments to the constitution so that they remain in power. Recep Tayyip Erdogan was elected president in 2014 in Turkey and changed the constitution in 2017 so that he could extend his reign over the usual 2 terms. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban changed the constitution too in favor of his Fidesz party. The most prominent example might be Adolf Hitler. How he rose to power as Germany's chancellor by democratic vote led to a turnover of a government with massive impact on the world order without comparison. Thus, even though the boundaries for executive power exist, doesn't mean that they can't be deceived. An autocrat is a person who has not only the will but also the power to self-rule. Legislative, executive, judiciary and the state are submitted to the autocrat's rule. He or she can almost do whatever they want, simply because the legislative and judicial branches are still vital and working, which they prove very frequently these days. The USA are not an autocracy. Even if Donald Trump shows autocratic behavior, he is no dictator. Yet. One power monopoly, an autocracy, deciding quick and strict about the country's fate. Can't this be a good thing? Would you like to live in an autocracy?
No.
No chance?
Not really.
No, thank you.
It depends. Because when it's a good one, then it's good. When it's a bad one, like Nazi side, then it's bad.
Yeah, I agree with her. I'm just agreeing with her, but true, it depends on.
Why not?
I'm fine with this.
I don't know if I would have all my rights there.
Don't know enough about what that would mean.
There is a lot of censurations and everything, so I don't like these things. You know, there's no freedom.
No, I just don't believe in it. I like the democracy we have and free for every people to think and to think what they want and do what they want, more or less.
I would say it's nice to have something to believe in, someone that leads you on.
Because I really love democracy and a lot of opinion, and I think the freedom is the most important thing what we have.
I don't care. I mean, I moved from my previous country in another one because the way they govern my country didn't like me. So I moved in a country where the things, in my opinion, went better.
Yes.
And yes, if I move in an autocracy and the things goes wrong, I think I've just moved somewhere else until I found the place in the world where I can live.
Let me know in the comments what you think about the current developments in US politics and Trump's autocratic tendencies. Is the situation under control, or might the checks and balances not serve as a sufficient halt to an absolute power grab over the country? This may take a while, at least till the next video, when we'll see each other again. All the loveliest and all the best to you. Till then, the Jan. Mwah.